Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Flashquotes podcast, the best pod for mobile event businesses of all shapes and sizes. I'm hanging out today with my Flashquotes friends and co-founders, Zach Habshaw, Justin Goodhart, also of Goodhart Coffee. Hey guys, happy early morning. Wow, this is 8 a.m. We'll see. Well, we have the zest of
I know
of
our
early bird.
Yeah. It's already lower. We got to try to bring it up, but yeah, love the early bird sesh.
We're hanging out, just the three of us today. Going to be chatting about all things AI and exploring lots of stuff. Before we jump into that, we are going to be at World of Coffee, April 10th through the 13th, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right? San Diego, California. We will have a Flashquotes booth 2352. So we are thrilled to be there and hanging out with a whole bunch of coffee entrepreneurs and people just who love coffee. As a part of being attendees, we actually have some tickets that we can give away. And we recently did a giveaway with a winner a couple days ago. And we want to give away 2 more tickets to some special listener. So to join and get in line for those in the raffle, go ahead and jump onto YouTube where you can find this podcast. Give us a subscribe, like the podcast, and then just enter a comment. You can say anything you want, but if you
I want to go to San Diego. I want to hang out with Flashquotes in San Diego. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let us know. Yeah.
And
I'm excited, man. It's going to be our first time taking the show on the road. Flashquotes is basically entirely remote business for the most part. We hang out in person, the three of us, every once in a while. We don't have much of a physical office. We've never been to an industry event or anything, or at least I haven't. So it's our first time kind of getting out in the world, hanging out with some coffee people. I've seen lots of our customers go to World of Coffee every year. I've seen tons of cool videos and photos. It looks like an awesome conference. So I'm excited to be there and meet some of y'all in person. Hit us up if you're going to be there. We want to hang out.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. You haven't been either, Justin, right?
I used to go back in the day when I would compete and stuff, but it's been a while.
Nice. Oh, is that where they had the competitions for?
They used to be combined with World, kind of the big yearly event. Now I think they may be split out, but yeah, they used to be.
Nice. Well, we are looking forward to it. And of course, once you get that session, you're going to be pumped to join us in June for Level 5 Live, which is our own conference we're putting on for mobile businesses in Denver, Colorado, June 25th, 2026. It's in person, one day, going to be epic. Check that out. Level 5 Live, allspelledout.com.
We've already sold half the tickets, and there's a limited cap where it can only really sell 100. So if you want to go, I would get them sooner than later. The prices are going to go up soon, and there's only a limited amount. We'll leave a link in the description, but level5live.com. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into the topic for today. It's been about 6 months since we've talked about AI, artificial intelligence, and how we are using kind of that set of tools in our business and Flashquotes and what we do every day and things related to that. Justin certainly uses it not only in Flashquotes, but then also in Goodhart Coffee, his mobile coffee catering business. And so we just wanted to kind of talk about what we're doing. I feel really lucky that we are such a small business and we're able to use these tools in a really unique way, right? We're not having to downsize or change the shape of our company. It really just allows us to think about certain tasks that we ourselves are doing on a regular basis and say, wait a minute, these tools are growing so rapidly. Their capabilities are really moving at a staggering pace, and constantly be asking ourselves, what can we automate here? What can we use kind of an agentic approach to go after? And we'll dig into the nitty gritty, but I think at a fundamental level, the thing that has really changed over the last year is this idea of kind of agents, right? Instead of, when we started out, it was kind of an interface for chat. It was a smart reply based off of the whole collection of human knowledge that was online in text. And progressively, but really there's been a kind of a step change in the last 6 to 12 months of these models getting ever more intelligent, having some more agency where you can increasingly provide a task with some level of obscurity and not that much context, and have some agent go out and use tools and use its own kind of internal knowledge and thinkings and machinations to actually try and do something for you, and do something for you while you do something else while you're away, which really can be a magical experience. So it's been really fun, and we're excited to dig into it.
Yeah. I want to add one thing to kind of the lay of the land, Daniel, which is like you mentioned, it's probably been like about 6 months since we did an episode on AI. And in AI terms, that's like a lifetime, right? There's so many models that have come out, so many tools that have come out. This might be a little bit hyperbolic, but I feel like 6 months ago, like the difference between models 6 months ago and now is like an order of magnitude of quality. Like back then, image generation models were like, you can generate a photo, but it kind of looks, all the people kind of look weirdly fake, and like it can't really do text on the image, and it's like it has a very AI flavor to the stock photography that you're generating. And now it's like, oh, you can just generate photos that look imperceptibly different from like something you would have taken on your iPhone. Like you literally can't tell. Code quality, like AI can like hack together some stuff, but you really need to be careful. You need to write a ton of tests. You need to review every line of code that it writes. Like it makes mistakes, it hallucinates, it makes bad decisions. Now there's AI tools to automate, not just as the code quality is so much better, but the testing and the code review is amazing, right? Copywriting, like it used to be full of M dashes and superlatives, and you could just tell when something was written by AI. And now with like pretty good prompting and better copywriting models, like copy is as good as you could ask for. It's really becoming like, if you know how to use the right model, the right tool, equivalent to like a junior person that you could hire in almost any role in your company, and sometimes even better than that.
Yeah, and I'd love to quickly just take this to like how does this actually make a difference to mobile caterers, to mobile operators? Because it's a very hands-on business, right? Where you got people schlepping equipment, and it's complicated. It's how can a small service business owner actually use AI in a way that can, help them? And I'll share just what some of the stuff that I've been experimenting with lately. What's cool about some of the recent advancements that Zach and Daniel are talking about is that there can be a lot more context that you feed in. So for example, Claude Code, if you download it on your computer, it can read like massive files that are on in specific folders. And so how I'm using this is massive analysis of leads, bookings, and just general trends and data that I'm seeing for my business. So I fed in like 1,000 of my most recent bookings, and I did it with Claude Code because that's too much context for, just to paste into a browser. So you've got to like have that in a Excel file on your desktop, and ask it like, hey, what insights, patterns, personas, trends can you spot and help me kind of learn more about what's going on in my business? And it, gave me some really interesting information, some of which I kind of knew just like a spidey sense, like, oh, I think, I expect this is happening. Like I expect most of my events to be corporate. I expect that repeat bookings and repeat customers are, very valuable. But then it was really proven out in the data that, at least from this was only the last, I think, 2 months of data. And I'd be curious to really do a full year cycle, because some people only rebook on a yearly basis. But from the last 2 months of data, I have a 10% rebooking rate, which, I'd like to get higher, but 10% of all my clients rebooking in a 2-month window. Actually, I don't hate. It's okay. I'd be curious what that is on a yearly cycle. So I learned that, and then I learned that, the 10% that rebook, they are actually responsible for 25% of revenues. Kind of telling me, what I already knew, but it's making me really want to double down on getting more rebookings and focusing there. But there was a lot more. There was an entire breakdown of all my events, event types, the core customers and kind of the core event types that we're getting booked for. Let me pull that up. Of course, corporate was one of the number ones. Private parties and, private celebrations represented, I think, something like 36% of all of our bookings. Let me try to pull this up. It's a pretty big document.
So while you do that, Justin, that's an awesome insight, and maybe we can unpack like step by step how someone could do what you just did. Maybe, Daniel, we spend some time talking about Claude and Claude Code and like what is it and why would anyone who's not writing code want to use it to do something like what Justin's talking about?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so Claude is the primary kind of AI agent built by Anthropic, one of the big AI labs, and Claude Code is a software, essentially a wrapper a harness built on that model. And really one of the things that can be a game changer for Claude Code, especially if you sign up for it and you can download, they have an app you can download onto your computer and run it there, is kind of goes back to that comment on agents where these models are increasingly accessing more and more information, right? And so much of the game changer about what you can do and the limit on what you can do is the connectivity of all sorts of different applications and tools, right? And so Claude and Anthropic has really been pushing the limit on how do you bring all these things together. When you think about a task that you do on a daily basis, a rote task, it often is there's a trigger, that's something that happens that drives me to do it. Then there's 2 or 3, 4 tools that I pull together to do something, to analyze and manipulate data. But generally what you're doing is you're moving information from this tool to this tool to this tool, or you're moving it to this tool and manipulating it and then moving the output to this tool. And you're really just trying to synthesize like something that happened and get an output that is really beneficial for you and your business. So downloading something like Claude Code and using Claude Cowork, which provides even more access to your computer for these agents, really just opens up this crazy cornucopia of possibilities. And like, as I was thinking about this episode, sometimes AI and these tools can make people feel concerned. Where is this going? Am I stable? Is my job okay? I think mobile businesses are like the perfect use case. Like, you're going out there, you're delighting people, you're providing amazing experiences for people. Like, that's not going to get replaced. I mean, you're solid there. So you've got a great foundation. You've got a great business. It's your responsibility to use these tools and explore these tools to get a leg up, to be differentiated in the space in all the places that you have more of a technological touch, which are all kind of these ancillary places that you can differentiate yourself. And I think, I would urge you to download Claude Code and sign up for a subscription, get a pro subscription. It is cheap, like relative to the value you get from it. Download Claude Cowork. And what you need to do, honestly, you need to tinker. Like, it is your responsibility. If you're not a tinkerer like Justin or any of us, like, I'm sorry, but you will benefit greatly from tinkering with these tools, because the 2 things that you need to do to have a fundamental shift in how you use AI is, 1, you need to know like what it can do at the limit or very close to the limit. If your mindset is AI is just ChatGPT on my phone, you've lost the plot. Like, you really are missing out on so much value that you can gain from these tools. Go and tinker, play with it, get it on your computer. And then once you start to understand kind of what it can do at the limit, you have to pay attention. Pay deep attention every day that you do something and you're like, wait a second, like, I just did this yesterday and the day before and the day before, and all the steps are pretty much the same. And the thing that triggers it is pretty much the same. All of a sudden, your mind starts to shift and say, oh, wait, maybe I can schedule this. Maybe I can have this tool call this tool to kick off a domino effect of tools that come together and do that and get that output. And then it can just report the output to me, report the solution to me, report the problem to me, instead of me spending all this time doing it. So it is a game changer, but you have to do it. Like, you must do it.
I'll add one quick anecdote there, and then I want to kick it back to Justin to talk to this specific example again. So +1, like, you need to download Claude Code and just start playing with it. Don't let the word code scare you. I just got back from a really cool like mastermind event for founders hosted by Greg Eisenberg, the founder of he runs the Startup Ideas podcast. Some of you might have heard of that. And he held this business owner mastermind group meetup in Florida. And basically one of the biggest takeaway from the whole conference was like every single person needs to download Claude Code and start using it. The room, I was one of the only developers in the room. It was mostly marketers, CEOs, founders, people running e-commerce businesses, people running coaching businesses, people running, IRL, like brick and mortar businesses. And all of them by the end were like, oh my God, I need to download Claude Code. Like, show me how to set it up because this sounds amazing. And it's just because it's unlocks so much potential for things that you can do with AI that you can't in just like a chat interface. So maybe we go back to you, Justin, and your example. Talk us through like first, like, from the beginning, like what were the questions you were trying to answer and why did you realize like, you're not a technical person, right? You're semi-technical, but you don't write code, but yet you have learned that Claude Code is a good tool for certain types of like analysis projects. So how did you come to that conclusion and how did you set this up?
Yeah, I just, I have so much data. I mean, I've done so many bookings, I have so many leads, so much customer communication, and there's just nuggets, and it's a gold mine of insight, but it's hard to sift through it all. And so for me, like the use case of AI is just like sift through the mountains of data and find patterns. Most of the patterns, like a lot of them I'm aware of in a vague sense, like the fact that most of our events are corporate and that sort of thing, but seeing the exact breakdown and spend and, I am aware in a vague sense that for whatever reason in the coffee catering industry, most people book on pretty short-term notice, but now I have exact data on it. So I'll share some of that we've seen at Goodheart. So by day of week, 9.3% of our events happen on a Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which are some of our busiest, like are about all 15% of events happen each of those days. 15% Tuesday, 15% Wednesday, 15% Thursday. Friday is slower, back down to like 11%. Saturday's our busiest with 23% of our events, at least from the last 2 months, happening on Saturday, and Sunday being the slowest event day with 8.1% of our events. So interesting things like that. I track the lead time, like how far in advance people submit their quotes. And so I want to do a secondary analysis on this, but this one is really interesting and kind of disturbing to me. According to this analysis, 13% of all my bookings happen with less than 3 days until the event date. 13%, which is crazy. 17% happen between 4 to 7 days, which means that 30% of my bookings happen less than 7 days out from the event. That one kind of surprised me. I knew we get a lot of last minute bookings, but 30% of my bookings being less than 7 days out is kind of crazy to me. So I think that's another reason why, I preach all the time, have your carts ready to go. Like, if you don't have your operations and your carts ready to go, you're not going to be able to do quick turnarounds where 30% of all clients, or at least my clients, are booking with less than 7 days. So then you have about another 15% of clients booking 1 to 2 weeks out. And then the largest segment is 2 to 4 weeks out with roughly 28% of all of our clients booking 2 to 4 weeks out. So that's really the bulk of people booking 2 to 4 weeks out. So just some really interesting insights. It's, again, I had a rough sense of this. 80% of all of our events are single barista events, and then 15% of them are 2 barista events, and then smaller percentages split across like the 3+ barista events. And then same thing with service days. 92% of all of our bookings are just 1 day, and then the other ones are kind of evenly split. 2 or more days is kind of evenly split. 75% of events indoor, 25% outdoor. So a lot of just interesting things that can kind of help me understand what's happening. And again, most of which I knew in an intuitive sense, but giving a percentage to it is really fascinating. And so the biggest takeaway for me, though, was the fact that 10% of our customers have rebooked within this 60-day window. And to me, it's kind of turning into 2026, to me, is the year of rebookings. Like, all my efforts, the bulk of my efforts are going to be geared toward how can we give people such a seamless, delightful experience that we can drive up the number of people who rebook. And eventually, we will be adding a dashboard whenever we can bump this to the top of our list. I want to see right up there in the Flashquotes dashboard with the booking percentage, I want to see rebooking percentage, which we'll be adding at some point. Because to me, that's, of course, you got to get someone booked the first time before you get them booked the second time. But to me, man, that's one of the primary drivers metrics I want to drive up in Goodheart in 2026. So those are some. There's a lot more that I can share a little bit later, but I'll just leave it there for now.
I mean, are you going to say something, Zach?
I was just going to say, like, yeah, so like if someone wanted to do that, what you just did, I think all they would need to do, right, is go into Flashquotes, download your bookings, download your leads. We have those as exports, and drop that file into some kind of chat. I mean, depending on how many you have, they may be small enough that you could just attach it to a chat, or you could try out Claude Code and put it into files on your desktop, and then give it access to interact with that folder. But just start asking it questions. What can you tell me? What AI, what do you notice about this data that I don't, right? Sometimes that could be interesting, and you can start prompting it. It can produce nice reports for you, summaries and stuff like that. And just, it's a good way to kind of get your wheels turning of analyzing the data once you have a data set to work with.
Yeah. And also it gave me a breakdown of like, which cities are my top performers, which are underperforming, which have more corporate events, which have more weddings. And that was super interesting. The one that I had the most fun with was, I've got over 2,600 Google reviews across all my cities and Google business profiles. And I fed in all 2,600 Google reviews into Claude Code and said, hey, score all of these, rank them all, score them all, and give me the top reviews for kind of emotional impact. And then I did it even further where I said, hey, based on our customer segments, I want you to give me all the most impactful reviews for teachers. I want you to give me all the most impactful reviews talking about our pricing, right? And affordability. I want you to give me all the most impactful reviews for people who are booking a conference with us. And so then I can present those reviews to those people so that they can really feel like, oh yeah, like they can hear the messages they need to hear based on, who they are and what type of event they're booking. That was one. And yeah, I'm excited to really dig into that more. This year too, in the spirit of rebooking, I'm really trying to make sure each of my leads and each of my customers get that personalized experience. And to me, like AI is amazing, but we all have probably read 1,000 AI slop emails, right? And it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I know, like this person got their point across, but it's kind of AI slop. And like, I know they used AI with almost zero editing to write this email. And I personally, like, I guess there's a place for that in some cases, if it's just almost more like a transactional email or you're like coordinating a calendar or something. But for me, I want to use AI to feel more human, to like give people a better, more personalized, if possible, like, yeah, more thoughtful, more human experience if I can. And so that's where, like, if I'm able to harness AI so that when a wedding customer comes to me, I can give them all the wedding photos and all the wedding reviews, and I can send them a quote with all the wedding like pain points and concerns and values. And if I can use AI to support me customizing their experience so they feel completely seen for the things they value and the things they fear, like, to me, that's how I want to be using AI. And that's how I'm trying to use it right now at Goodheart Coffee. And so, yeah.
Nice. A couple of things that jumped out more on the business side from that data, Justin. So what was the cumulative percentage, like 4 weeks or sooner for a booking? It seemed like it was adding up to more than 50%. I didn't have my calculator out.
30%, 45. No, it's like 70%. It's 75%. So 75% of all of our bookings happen with 4 weeks or less notice.
Yeah, to me, that's a shockingly high number, but it kind of dovetails with some mistakes that people make in other segments, like we've talked about, short-term rentals or anything where you've got some sort of limited quantity of your product and you commit. A lot of people are tempted to commit too soon, right? Waiting till 4 weeks out for having open dates like that are in the next 4 weeks may feel very uncomfortable to a lot of people, but you're getting 75% of your bookings in that time frame. Like, there's a lot of demand to be had between 4 weeks and the event date. So it's just another like data-driven reminder to, especially if you have a limited number of carts that can go out 1, 2, 3, like as soon as you lock them in, it may feel good to lock them in 6 months in advance, but you might be preventing yourself from being open to a whole bunch of other opportunities that could be more lucrative for your business. And then the other thing that you noted was the percentage of events that are in your sweet spot. 90% single barista, or one cart, one day. I may not be getting the percentages right, but I think so many people are tempted to provide the whole menu. They want to overwhelm people, even on like the Flashquotes lead intake form. They want to have every service and every add-on and every permutation. The downside of that is that you're forgetting about your sweet spot, and your sweet spot is probably a huge percentage of the business that you do. And so, give that some thought as you're just thinking about how you operate, the messages you send, how you present your forms. You could probably benefit from really optimizing for what you do great. Of course, allow for those edge cases, but don't forget about, who's your bread and butter, how you're making your money. It makes a big difference.
There's a I think it's a book called The Paradox of Choice. Have you guys read that? Are you familiar with that idea? It's basically this psychologist who studied and realized the assumption I think a lot of people have is the more choices the better, and that's actually not true. The people don't do well with too many options. They get anxiety, they get diminished satisfaction because they're not sure if they feel like they maybe missed out. Like you has 200 entrees, you may not like the one you got as much because there were 7 others that you kind of thought might be better, and then you kind of second guess your choice. So sometimes it's just better to pare it down to people and help them by whittling it down to like 2 or 3 options in some cases, to make them feel better about the choice, to make it easy, to reduce the anxiety and then analysis paralysis. Something to think about if you've got this crazy expansive menu.
Yeah.
That's why whenever I change underwear, if I get a new winner, I have to replace all my underwear with that brand, because I do not want a paradox of choice of having my crappy underwear. It makes me sad, and then I have to do laundry more. So
that is so true. Same with socks. It's like when you find a new sock, all the other socks have to die, and you replace.
Yeah. You have a great sock burning.
Some other quick data is event size by guest counts. The largest segment is 50 to 100 guests. That's 34% of our bookings. The second largest segment is 26 to 50. So that represents like what? 50, like 65% of all of our bookings have a guest size between 25 and 100. And then put another way, 75% of all of our bookings have a guest count less than 100 or less. And it's only like 22% of our bookings that have a guest count larger than 100. So just interesting to see some of these insights. You all have probably noticed similar patterns in your businesses, depending on the industry you're in. I really encourage that. Another really practical one you could do if you wanted is there's a tool called Google Takeout, which is how I got all of my Google reviews out from Google. Google Takeout, you can export all your data, so email data as well. And you could export every email you have ever sent or received to clients or maybe more practically in the last 6 to 12 months. And you could download that file and you could feed it into Claude Code, and you could say, hey, please help me analyze like all of my customer communications and give me insight on like what I'm doing well and areas I could improve. And, I haven't done that one yet. Now I need to, now I want to, just to see how our, any improvements in sales process, clarity, any of that, or even again a persona analysis. How is my communication with corporate customers versus private customers? And you can do all of that if you have the data. Alex Hormozy, most of you have probably heard of him, like the big hot business guy right now. But he said,
so hot, so big and hot.
Yeah, like literally and metaphorically. He said, he's like, everyone wants to be an AI first company, at least, for the business owners he talks to. But he says to be an AI first company, you have to be a data first company. You have to actually have data that AI can manipulate. And we all have email data, that's for sure. So that could be a really great point for people to getting some insights into their business that you could only get by sifting through mountains of data.
Nice. So I think we've maybe to put a bow on this section, like we talked a lot about using AI to do data analysis, and it's really good at ingesting large amounts of unstructured data and structuring it for you and giving you something insightful out of it. So hopefully that inspired some people with some ideas of research they could do. Maybe we move to talking about like AI for automation and what, a little bit more about agents and kind of what Daniel was saying earlier about identifying mundane or repeatable tasks and using the AI agent skill in Claude Code or other ways to automate some of that stuff. I think we have probably 3 or 4 interesting examples we could talk about.
Yeah, let's do it. Also, time check. You have to hard stop at 9, Justin, or no?
I do, but you guys can hang out if you want.
I mean, I guess I'll go on an example. For me, I was writing down the rather than say, hey, use this specific tool or this specific model, the things that I'm noticing that are kind of shaping and changing how I think about using AI. There's really 4 big things that jump out. One is context, and we've had that for some time, but it's kind of increasing. And essentially, that's just anytime you're engaging with a model, it's taking everything from the conversation before and putting it into every request. Now, because of that, a lot of times you can run out of context. It can slow down or say, oh, we need to restart the conversation. And that's essentially what's happening because everything that you've said before, the back and forth, is coming back every single time and it's going into context. That using that context well, not overusing it, summarizing it properly, but most importantly, starting with like an evergreen permanent context is really continually starting to change. So most of the agents that I interact with, they know who I am. They know what Flashquotes is. They know a lot about our business, about how we talk, about how we think about things, about how we operate, about who our customers are and how we make money. And all of our goals are kind of wrapped up in this context. And so that changes so much about the effectiveness of your agent because it can know you're not starting from zero every time. You're not retraining it every time. So pay attention to ways you can increase your context. All these apps have ways of doing that. That's getting better and better. Another one that we already talked about briefly is just the tools. So many of these tools can talk to each other. You've probably heard of API, Application Programming Interface. That's just basically how like computers talk to computers, how systems and tools and apps talk to apps. If you use Slack, you can have Slack talk to another system. If you have a Google Sheet, your Slack could look at your Google Sheet and extract data. It could respond to an event in your Google Sheet and do something in Slack. Maybe you have, any number of tools. They can talk to each other. So just pay attention to that. Another one is skills. And that's kind of the word that Anthropic has coined in Claude Code. But skills are basically a set of instructions to say, do this, do this, do this. Anything that if you might hire somebody like an entry-level person at your company and have that's a great use case. Think about a potential person you want to hire, right? You have your business. Think about you're hiring an executive assistant. What is your executive assistant going to be doing every single day? You're probably going to come up at least with like 3 to 5 repeat tasks that they would do. How would you tell them to do it? Go here, do this, pull this data, put it in this thing, summarize it, email it to me, send it to this person. That is a skill. And that is a skill that an agent can do just as well, if not better, than a potential like remote EA that you could hire. And so skills and just basically rote tasks that are spelled out for an agent to execute against are going to continue coming up. And then, lastly, before I hand it over, a thing that is going to continue to be a game changer, it's not very present yet, is cron jobs or scheduled jobs. Basically, like what Justin was describing, data entry, you have to get the data, you have to pull it down, you have to put it into this app. All of it starts with you. The new agents that are coming out and on the forefront here respond to triggers, respond to, hey, start at this time, every morning at 8 a.m., every Saturday at 10. They can respond to time-based intervals, which is cron based off of Chronos, or they can respond to other systems, which is basically a hook. Another system like Slack says, oh, as soon as somebody presses this button, kick off this agent to do something. Those sorts of triggers where these agents are spinning up and doing things in the background without you being involved with starting them, that is magical. Like I get a report every morning about what's going on in the day. What are my upcoming emails? What's important? What are my upcoming meetings? It is mind-blowing. Recently, I built something where within Flashquotes, we pay great attention to any errors in the system because we want the system to be flawless and rocking for you. So I have an alert that every 10 minutes, an agent will check our flow of logs and look for any errors in the system. It'll then aggregate all those errors and say, wow, this is happening, summarizes it. That's one system. Then it uses another tool to look at our code base on GitHub in a read-only capacity and get some background on what's going on and try and get some additional context, like I said, about the problem space. Then it decides, does Daniel need to know about this right now? Is it super urgent, or does he need to know about it in like a daily summary? It might alert me right away. And then if I want to, I could take action to immediately put it into our ticketing system so that we can build a ticket to code against it. Like the feedback loop, the speed of execution of solving things is just staggering. And that's why, to go back to tinkering, like, you got to go play with these things because it's mind blowing what they can do. That was a long diatribe, but this is exciting. This is exciting shit. What do you think, Zach?
I love it. As you were talking, as I'm wont to do, I started diagramming. Let me see if I can share this. Can you guys see this? So this might be, and we could drop this in the description or something, but this might be helpful for people just to kind of visual learners like me to summarize what Daniel just said, kind of. So imagine, and if I missed any of the boxes as you were talking, Daniel, feel free to call them out. We can work on this together. But there's an agent harness, which is some kind of container that can hold your agents. OpenClaw is an agent harness. We could talk about that. Claude Code is an agent harness. It's just a program or tool that lets you create one or more agents. And the thing about agents, because of what Daniel said, agents, they have a limited context window. That's like the fundamental constraint of working with AI. And so often it is better to create many specialized agents than one magical know how to do everything agent. So one example, like I'll give a very specific example here of how I actually use Claude Code to write our email newsletter, or help me write our newsletter. I still do the final 10% to make sure it's right and it's correct and stuff like that, and it looks good when it goes out and it has my voice. But Claude Code does a lot of writing the newsletter, and the way that it works is that I have different agents that are good at different things. So there's like an outline writer agent, and this agent can take a transcript of our podcast as input, and its prompt is, this is what Flashquotes is all about. This is what the newsletter is all about. Here's the topic of our podcast. Can you please read this whole conversation, this transcript, and find the most interesting tidbits that could make like good bullet points or lessons or takeaways for an email newsletter. Like, here's generally what I'm looking for, 5 to 10 ideas, and then we'll narrow it down to like 3 bullet points for the newsletter. Great. So it has a prompt that tells it, who am I? What is my goal? What am I supposed to do? What am I good at? And then context, this is like the data that we put into it in addition to the prompt, is kind of like a subset of context in a way, but the other context is like the transcript itself and other data, other files that it needs, maybe some example email newsletters from before or whatever. So the context includes the prompt and some data that I send it. And then it has skills and tools. So this one maybe doesn't have any tools, but skills would be like what Daniel just said. Here's the SOP for how we do this. First you read the transcript, then you think about these, then you come up with 10 ideas for bullet points for the newsletter, then you would narrow it down to 3 or whatever. And tools would be like, hey, you can talk to other systems like kit.com, which is our email system, or other data sources, Riverside, which is our podcast recording studio, to get information out of other systems. So there's an outline writer. When we get an outline, then we hand it to a copywriter agent, and copywriter agent is good at different things. It knows how to write interesting copy that's catchy. It knows how to write hooks and subject lines, and it knows our brand voice. That's part of its context. How do we like to write? How do we punctuate? And then it can produce a draft. But the draft is sometimes, as AI drafts are, like, it has mistakes. It's not perfect. It has issues with it. So I have a fact checker agent, because I don't want to send an email that has like misquotes or misattributions or inaccurate data in it. So the fact checker agent has a totally different prompt. It's very stern, right? Read this, tear this draft apart, like look every single claim, every data point, every number, every quote. I want you to look and find the source of truth for it. Make sure that it is verbatim from the transcript. There's no room for errors. There cannot be any hallucinated facts in this email. So check everything and produce a report that tells me, yes, every single quote is verified, or no. And if no, then guess what? The fact checker can kick it back to the copywriter and say, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong, try again. And we loop and we do it again and again and again until, hey, finally there's a fact-checked viable draft at the end. Whoa, that's a crazy arrow. And then there's an editor agent that says, hey, just edit this for grammar, for punctuation, for clarity, make sure it's less than 500 words, make sure that it meets all the kind of the final pre-flight check for being good enough to go out the door. And then once the editor's happy with it, then it can use a tool to push the draft into kit.com and tell me, hey, the draft email for this week is ready. Go look at it, give us feedback if you want us to rewrite, or otherwise you can just edit and send it. So this seems complicated. It supports a higher quality output. Why do I do it this way? Because if I just went to Claude and said, here's a transcript of our last podcast, write a good email about it, it's not going to be usable. It's crap. Because the agent can't contain all that context. It can't shift modes between first I'm thinking about interesting stuff to write about, then I'm writing it, then I'm fact checking my own work, which agents just aren't very good at. So it's just better to give each of these a little job to do, and then they can hold each other kind of accountable in a way. They can kick it back to each other if it's not good enough, and the output is amazing instead of meh. And that's kind of the power of agents when you start to learn how to use them like this.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, we have to put this up. How would we say somebody could even venture to get started with this, right? I mean, within Claude Code, I guess you'd have to connect it to GitHub or some sort of source control, maybe. You could run it locally. And try it out.
I think you can run it locally, especially in the Claude Code app. So the beauty of Claude Code is it makes all these things really easy for you. That's why we keep talking about how good it is, because it has a feature for tools and a feature for skills and a feature for context and prompt. You could just open Claude Code and say, hey, and I would not start with something this complicated. Start with a one agent task. Hey, I just want a one agent that pulls my Google Analytics data and tells me every day how much traffic I got to the website. And then you can add, again, the beauty of Claude Code is you don't have to know how to build it. You can just ask Claude as you're doing it. So you say, hey, Claude, I want to make an agent that can get Google Analytics data from yesterday and make it into a nice report for me, and it will do it for you. It knows how to build the agent. It can walk you through prompting it and giving it access to the right tools. And then anytime out after that, if you want to just use that agent, you say, hey, Google Analytics agent, do this thing for me, and it can do it. Or you can, like Daniel's talking about with cron jobs or scheduled jobs, you can start to think about how do I automate it so that it could do this every night or something and send it to me in Slack. So that any tools that you are already using could probably become tools that your agents are using to communicate with you, to document what they're doing, to save their findings as a report in your Google Docs or whatever. It starts to get kind of crazy, but I would start small, just with one task that you're doing every day that maybe requires checking a few different data points or something, and see hey, could I use Claude Code to write an agent that does this for me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't underscore enough what you said, that I don't know how to do it is a terrible reason not to, because the system can actually help you build itself. It's pretty crazy, but probably most of the prompts and the context and the skills, as they're laid out in their current form, even in this flow, Zach built by having an initial nugget, an initial seed of where you wanted to go, and then letting the agent write its own prompt, write its own, harness and description and skill. And so as you're going through it, you literally can just open Claude Code or whatever tool you want and just say, this is what I'm trying to do. This is the problem I'm trying to solve. Walk me through how to do it. Another thing that a lot of these agents are increasingly getting good at is planning. They will take your insights, they'll build a plan, and then oftentimes they'll take you through 3 to 5 questions that say, can you clarify this? Can you clarify this? So that there's a really good plan to execute against.
Yeah, I was just drawing here, I didn't know how to, it's not like I just was born knowing how to do this, right? Like
What?
I tried and failed, right? So I started this way. I started like, hey, it'd be cool if there was an agent that could write our email for us. And I wasn't, it sucked. I mean, it was better than like me starting with a blank Google Doc and trying to write the email, but it was not up to my quality. So I started noticing the problems like, it's hallucinating a ton. And even if I tell it like in all caps, like do not misquote somebody, it doesn't do it. So what if I like made another agent that was its job, is like copy editing this or fact checking this thing once the first agent's done. And I just kind of like iterated until it kept, these things are constantly evolving too. Like you're not going to get it right perfect the first time. If you start an agent and it gives you something that wasn't very good, ask Claude or whatever tool you're using, this wasn't what I wanted. Why did it come out this way? And how can we fix the prompt or fix the context so that the next time it does better? Or how can we give it a better skill so that it knows my preferences? And so all of these things, the beauty of it is they're all just little text files on your computer. So you can read it, you can edit it yourself, you can ask Claude to edit it, and say, hey, you made this mistake last time, don't do this. And you just keep iterating on these things until it's like satisfactory, and you just keep doing it from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, maybe we kind of head to a final segment. So to wrap this one up, this is kind of digging more into the agentic flows that you can trigger, scheduling, like just really layering it on. You can go wild. This is where all the edge of the tinkering is happening. So let us know what you're doing if you're interested in this space. We love talking about it, as you can tell. Maybe we wrap with just some of our headspace around Flashquotes AI and what we want to do there. So many companies in the last couple years have just slapped on like AI into their app. Like it's just, I can do a chat in the app. And to me, it's just felt like a lot of them may be public companies. They just want to be AI first and, get a little juice in the stock market, but it's not providing real value. It's not an aha or delightful experience for the users. It's just like, oh, this is in the way and I don't really want to use it, right? And so we've been thinking about Flashquotes and AI and how we're going to integrate it into the product. And we've been sort of intentionally a little bit slower and methodical on how we want to do it. But this year is going to be the year for releasing some early features in that space. I have 3 that are in my mind to talk about and bring up. And I, just to share and kind of get some not real time, but asynchronous feedback from you all, the listeners, and maybe hear about other ideas that you might have that we're not even thinking of on things that would be really cool. But I don't know, Zach, if there's any that come to your mind or if you want to start us off and then I can fill it in.
Yeah, maybe before I assume your 3 are like future state things.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll tee it up with like, there is already a sliver of AI in Flashquotes that you may not you don't see every day, because that's part of our thesis, I think, right? Is like, what is Flashquotes AI? It's definitely not like a chat bubble that you talk to. It's like, it's using tools and AI tools and agentic tools to reduce friction and to make the product easier to use. So one thing that Daniel did recently that I think is really cool, and many of you longtime listeners, you'll never have seen this because you signed up a long time ago, but if you signed up recently, you may notice that the sign up flow has some really cool stuff now. So some of the things that people run into, the problems we were trying to solve is like, hey, when I sign up for Flashquotes, there's a lot of like tedious work to get my quote template looking good. I need to find some photos, and I don't know where they are, like dig through the Dropbox or whatever and see if I can find some photos that I like. That takes some time. It adds friction. I need to go find like the SVG of my logo image. I need to find the hex code for my brand color. This is very tedious work that slows people down. It just becomes like a 30-minute chore just to get your branding and photos and logo into Flashquotes so that your quote looks good. And our whole idea was, what's like the fastest path to a beautiful quote? When you sign up for Flashquotes, can we give you a beautiful customized quote template for your business in 2 minutes? And if so, what would that take? Well, it takes some AI and automation under the hood. So what we did is Daniel built using some AI APIs like Firecrawl. We now have the ability, when you put in your website URL, to go to your website, find your brand color, find your logo, find photos that you've posted, and kind of bubble those up for you and just give you a button that says, yep, like that's my logo, that's my color, that these are the photos that I want. Saves you the time of having to go track those files down and upload them. And we can just grab that easily by telling AI, hey, here's their website. Can you figure out what their color is and figure out what their logo file is likely to be? So that's pretty cool. Also, for people who don't have great photos to start off with, we don't want that to be a barrier. Nano Banana nowadays can produce amazing stock photography for free. We just created a bunch of starter photos that you can use based on your service in your industry, so that you can just grab some and get going, and that you can't even tell that they're AI generated. They look like regular stock photos that you would pay a lot of money for. Those are some of the ways that we've started to sprinkle it in just to reduce friction for people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, man. I think you're right that a lot of even the future features will be, it'll feel like magic, hopefully, but it won't even be something that you think, oh, this is AI. Like it's really integrated, and that's a great case for what we can do. A couple things that are on my mind for going forward is one is pricing, right? And we're going to be doing a lot of stuff in pricing, but pricing is really hard. A lot of people like price kind of based off their gut, but they don't know how to articulate that into data rules, even though there's probably some rules behind the scene. And so we're going to be improving the pricing, but that's going to be a place where I think AI can be a little bit more kind of obfuscated, a magic underneath, where we can use your inputs, maybe even a conversational type chat or something where you're talking to, somebody, an expert pricing person who's this agent that can help you set up your pricing. And a lot of companies, and even Flashquotes, we try and not have too many settings, right? Only settings where we absolutely need it and need to have those variations. But as time goes on, as you're taking on different businesses, things become complex. And so I think even AI as a way of engaging with the app and setting up the app is going to make a lot of sense, and pricing is going to be a big one there. Custom images, right? I think the image generation is mind-blowing. We didn't really touch on this, and you just said it, right? Nano Banana, very funny name that Google decided to use when they first released covertly their image gen model. It caught on so much, and people loved the name that they kept the name around, but it also will be called, Google Gemini Pro Flash Image, something like that. But they recently just released a Nano Banana 2 a couple weeks ago. That is just by far the state of the art in image generation. So many of our listeners have great reasons to spin up amazing images, and you can remix the photos you've already got. Take your cart, take your people. You can take them and you can put them in a setting that they may not have been in before because you're trying to sell somebody on that setting. You have somebody having like a wedding out somewhere in a locale, you don't have images for that. Like you could spin up images, bespoke custom images with your branding, your cart, your people layered onto that environment that look completely original and real. And that can be a huge differentiator. If you got a quote from somebody and they had images of them experiencing you before they ever did, like that could be really cool. So I think you can do that yourself by tying things together. There's an opportunity there within Flashquotes to automate that and, provide these very customized quotes and customized quote imagery that we're really excited to explore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's game changing. If you haven't played around with Nano Banana 2, like it finally feels like this is what like AI photo editing should be like, right? The other thing it's great at is anything you're doing in Canva. I know a lot of our customers use Canva to create brochures and menus and assets, right? Because it has been and still is like one of the best tools for that. AI can do a lot of that too with Nano Banana. So if you say like, generate me a beautiful menu and here's my brand colors and here's my vibe and here's what should be on the menu, it can do that first try. The text is perfectly legible. There's no typos. Like a lot of the issues that used to happen with AI generated photos, it can solve now. So that's another little tidbit that you might want to experiment with.
Yeah. And that's super accessible. Like you could stop right now, download Google Gemini on your phone, or go to, I think, aistudio.google.com. You could probably try out Nano Banana Pro, their pro tier, for free. Click like image generation, type something in, and mix in a photo if you've got one on your phone, and just see what it can do. To go back to that tinkering, it's pretty mind-blowing. A couple other ones just real quick to get feedback. Email analytics and drafting, right? We integrate with Google. We want to do some of that stuff that Justin mentioned with understanding how your conversations are currently going with your leads, how you talk to your leads and people in general. And that can unlock the ability to provide like draft emails that you can leverage if you want or tweak, kind of give you a starting point for conversations for kind of outbound comms. And then on the reverse side of that, so much of email traffic is people asking for a quote or wanting to update a quote or modify it, right? We make it super easy to draft a quote and send it instantly within Flashquotes and book it. But what if that quote needs to be changed? Or what if somebody just is emailing you about a quote and you don't want to have to build it and send them a link? We want to unlock like text to quote, essentially. Could be a super powerful feature that we're excited to explore. One other use case for that could be you have the lead intake form on your website, but then you also have a chat interface. Either it's the same or something different, and somebody could just chat and get a quote maybe. I don't know. Interesting? I don't know. Seems kind of cool.
You tell us.
Yeah. So the sky's the limit. We're excited to explore all this stuff. And if you have any feedback or thoughts on some of our ideas as we explore AI and integrate it into Flashquotes, that's always welcome.
Yeah. Another one, it's kind of related to the image thing you said, but I think I've heard this from some people. I think it's a cool idea, is using AI to generate the proofs for custom branding or custom signage on your sign, right? Like that seems to be a super common offering in the mobile business category, is like, hey, I'll brand my card a certain way. I'll put a custom sign up. I'll put custom logos on the cups or the napkins. And usually it sounds like that's a pretty tedious process sometimes, and getting the assets from your client and then converting them to the right shapes and dimensions that you need to get it to the printer and stuff. Like, what if there was a way where the client could just upload a file and Flashquotes AI generates the proofs to spec, and you just click, order, print? That could be a big time saver for people.
Yeah. Crazy. So many options. All right. Well, that is our semi-annual State of AI podcast.
State of AI. Yeah. I'm curious, for the feedback on this one, because sometimes these are a little bit different, but I hope it's useful. And if you guys have questions about AI, if you want other topics or things you're interested in learning about how to use AI, please let us know. Drop it in the comments, because it's something we really enjoy talking about. We nerd out on, as you could tell, and love sharing that knowledge if it's helpful for you guys. And also, don't forget, come see us at World of Coffee San Diego. It's for this. So drop a comment on YouTube and let us know you want to come, and we'll do a raffle next week sometime to give away 2 more tickets.
All right. Thanks for hanging out. See y'all.
Thanks.